Today we are going to continue our journey explaining the lore of all of the Bond CEs. Today we are doing the Berserkers. If you are aware of any Bond CE, it is this one, the castle of the Einsburn family and a place where a heroic giant tried to protect a little girl. The helmet of Sir Lancelot was made with the express purpose of hiding his true identity. It's much easier in a standard Holy Grail war to be perceived as the quote-unquote Black Knight. Also, where the mind may fail in remembering the path of knighthood, this appearance can be seen as the last vestige of who he is. Fun fact, this CE is being described by Chen Gong, or at least that's the impression that it gives off. This CE gives us an explanation as to why Lu Bu uses this weapon, the Heavenly Halberd. Ironically, Lu Bu is more known for being a master archer, but oh well. The halberd is described as being a perfect weapon, one that meets every situation in hand-to-hand combat effectively if known how to be used properly. It can double as a spear, a sword, or bludgeon based on how it is swung, and while on horseback it makes for a perfect implement to dispatch enemies on the ground. Rebellion and insurrection. This CE stands to crystallize Spartacus's belief of fighting against the oppressed, be they men or beast. With a legion of 70 men and armed with stolen kitchen utensils, Spartacus led a slave rebellion and escaped the gladiatorial schools. While this would ultimately lead to his death, to him and his comrades, it was better than living as a toy to the tyrants. There is no historical precedent for Kentoki having sunglasses, but fate plays around with this idea a fair amount. He wears the sunglasses to hide his blue eyes. There is a whole behind-the-scenes subtext about this where it is revealed that it was not Raiko who killed Shuten, but rather Kentoki. His blue eyes are what made Shuten drop her guard for a brief moment that allowed him to kill her, so he now wears glasses to prevent the same thing from happening again. Here we see Vlad the Impaler, Vlad impaling people. Impalement is the act of torture or execution that involves skewering a person with a long object. This is the favored method of Vlad, who would do so supposedly by having the still living person partially stabbed while horizontal and then have gravity work its magic, slowly piercing through the rest of them. It's a real not great way to go out. The thread of Ariadne was given to the Greek hero Theseus to help him navigate the Great Labyrinth. This made it so that after he was able to find the Minotaur, he could then also find his way out. Caligula's is odd. Let's start with the accusation against him of him sleeping with his sister Agrippina, the mother of Nero. In Fate, Nero and Agrippina look identical, so the love he feels for her would be put into immediate question. The actual Caligula was most likely an epileptic, which is why his madness is blamed on the full moon. This CE, however, paints it that it was in fact the Roman Senate that was corrupt, and that he became mad on purpose to draw their ire in hopes that it would make Nero's rule more beautiful. While the Roman Senate was indeed corrupt, the second part of this is entirely a fabrication. First off, I want to note that the Assyrian Eutychus mentioned here is not the Egyptian one, so don't be confused. Second off, it is important to note that Darius III is debated as to whether he is even real because he doesn't exist in Persian sources, only Greek ones. All of which make him out to be a villain to make Alexander seem even more great. The anecdote here about him going to the gates of Babylon and finding no treasure inside of it is all metaphorical, on needing more than just wealth to be a powerful ruler. Kiyohime's famous bell of the Dojoji Temple. After Anshin lied to her about marrying her, the scorned young girl chased after him. She turned into a fire-breathing serpent, sniffed out the monk hiding in the temple's bell, she breathed fire on it until it was white hot, and then drowned herself in the river, leaving nothing but a charred husk of the lyre for the monks to dispose of. Kiyohime did nothing wrong. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, that is my boy Eric Bloodaxe with the Eric Bloodaxe. The axe, in actuality, is metaphorical. He gained the name Bloodaxe because of the various acts of familicide he committed in order to sit upon the throne of Norway. This would be a continuing theme for him, and so the name is believed to be derived from his bloody ways. Tamacat, my beloved, was given this apron of a good wife by Cat Merlin in order to govern all of Chaldea. Only one who has mastered the culinary arts is able to wear it, making her the ideal wife, or at least that's the lie that she's come up with for us to believe. The creation of a perfect human, to play God. While Fran is indeed perfect, her existence was one that came about because of man's own hubris. Life is sacred and complex, so the idea of lowly creatures such as humans attempting to usurp this power from the gods is a greater blasphemy than Prometheus stealing fire. Because it was an action done out of hubris, it resulted in errors, and the creator rejecting their own creation. I love that they tied this in, and we really do deserve an old man Beowulf. This is his final battle, long past his prime. He is alone with a singular shield bearer by his side, tasked with killing the great dragon who threatened his country. After arriving, all of his men save for the single knight flee in terror, and the dragon lands a fatal blow on Beowulf. However, together the pair muster an attack, allowing the knight Wiglaf to land a blow with his sword, and Beowulf a fatal blow with his dagger. The old king, as he lays dying, declares his bravest subject to be the future king. This is perhaps the best word to describe Nightingale as a person. Indomitable, meaning to be impossible to defeat. Nightingale was a person who worked for her entire life and never gave up the pursuit of teaching others the way of healing. Where many would and have allowed their achievements to simply be shelved and rest in the knowledge that they made a difference, Nightingale never stopped until she died. The one-man war is certainly how I would describe Kuwalter. This CE is meant to show his achievements in the America Singularity, where he was unmatched as a warrior time and time again. This CE simply goes to describe that this rendition of Ku is the crystallization of his might, neglecting all other aspects in favor of war. Raiko's Bansi is the Dojigiri Yasutsuna, or simply the Dojigiri, or Doji Killer. This is the sword that supposedly killed Shuten Doji and still exists today in the Tokyo Museum. I swear this one is legit just a pun. Like, seriously, Bone Sword Nameless. There is also no historical precedent for it, it's literally just an Emiya joke. It's a parody of R2-D2 but made to resemble the helmet of Lancelot. It is described as being loyal exclusively to Echan and looks down on humans. The Hiyori of the Shinsengumi hung up rather than worn. This is for a few reasons. Hijikata actually lived long enough to be part of the group that the Shinsengumi evolved into. Near the end of the war, they knew that they had lost. The Tokugawa had surrendered and Edo was lost, but still they fought in a now pointless fight. It became a battle for principle over what was actually able to be won, and Hijikata became the true embodiment of this movement. I can say this with confidence because it was only with his death that the movement fell apart. I can't confirm the historicity of this one, but I don't believe that that's the point. This one is very reminiscent of Anastasia's Atma, as it is just a normal moment shared between sisters in the past, not knowing the tragedy that would befall their futures as they slowly became consumed in flames. Though unconfirmed, I'm going to treat this as it is implied. The girdle of Hippolyta was the object of desire for Heracles' ninth labor. It was a gift from the Amazons from the war god Ares. Hippolyta, in most renditions, willingly gives Heracles the belt, impressed by his stature and achievements. It's only when Hera gets involved, spreading rumors among the Amazonian ranks, does Heracles get attacked. In the confusion of it all, Hippolyta is killed by Heracles, who then flees with the girdle. As to how it ended up in Penn's possession is unknown to me. The frontier was what the unexplored parts of America were referred to. In the legends of Paul Bunyan, much of what we know about the frontier was created through his actions, and it was through his tireless work that settlers were able to make it all one country. Nobu's hit summer album, the collector's edition, includes a t-shirt and headphones, but if none sell then she's just going to give them away anyway, so whatever. So I discovered in my research that the pelt of the Caledonian boar was actually attested to be real. In the 2nd century, it was still on display in the Temple of Athena, though because of its advanced age it was barely recognizable, and sieges from the bastard Romans had resulted in the thievery of its tusks, leaving it as little more than just a moldy old pelt. A crystallized memory of our time with Jolter. In other words, all of our failed Dojin copies after we got stuck into BB's time loop. We are being forced to read all of them with Jolter, and to act as her silencer should she get too embarrassed about the past. This one I find very interesting. It is, of course, not historically accurate in the slightest, however, it does call some things into mind. Firstly, we've seen human Zhang Yu before. Not any full artwork or anything like a sprite, but it has appeared in flashbacks before. These are the blueprints to make the original 1.0 of Zhang Yu. So over time, he became more the robotic centaur that we see now. The implications of this are, of course, that a more human Zhang Yu may be summonable in the future. This is another of my favorite Bond CEs because again, it shows the growth of character that Arjun Alter has been going through. He went from something akin to a machine, weeding out imperfection in any form and eliminating it with impunity, to openly admitting that the thing he, an all-powerful god, created was imperfect. He claimed that this was allowed to happen because he was asked to be himself, and so he decided to learn. He is changing to understand humans in a way that is impossible for a god that knows all. So, after scouring the internet to try and find the proper translation of Mori's will and testament, I am happy to inform you that what is written in the FGO version is pretty much exactly what it was like, with only some embellishments to match how he is portrayed. The requests are the same, the wording is different. Give his tea jar and tea sets to Hideyoshi, as Nobu was dead by now. Have Hideyoshi give money to his mom so that she can move to Kyoto where she'll be safe. Put a stronger general in charge of Kanayama, and have all of the women there sent home. All unlabeled tea things go to Senchio, as well as a short sword and everything else to who they are labeled with. Mori wants his daughter to marry a doctor or a merchant, and definitely not a samurai. Make sure his mom gets to Kyoto safe, and do not let Senchio take over Kanayama. In the event of a catastrophic defeat, burn the whole thing down. Senchio, by the way, was Tokugawa Ieyasu. A little fun thing with Salome is that it's heavily implied that she has killed her past masters, and that is why she has so many skulls. The main skull, though, belongs to John the Baptist, which was specifically requested by her to be given on a platter as a reward for her dancing. She did this to please her mother after John had called her marriage unlawful. Another summer CE, with the main draw being the discussion of how special the summer was to the servant. The difference is that this would be Musashi's last summer, and she could somehow detect that, making it more impactful as she went all out to have the time of her life. According to some versions of the tale, Kijo-kyo was originally named Kureha, but given the court name Momiji, she would play the koto in the court to imperial audiences and drew the attention of a samurai lord. However, rumors spread that she had planned to kill the samurai's main wife and she was exiled while pregnant with his child. After this, she was believed to become the leader of a bandit group and would be killed for this. It is important to remember that the claims of Oni are often just historically bandits, so this ties these two connections together well. Bryn and Sigurd offer a gift of apology for wandering off and fucking several times during the summer break when we were in the middle of getting murdered. The gifts include sweets and vegetable juices, which are noted to be in the sharp eyes of the child spirits who may want some. This one has no real basis in history outside of the location, which is Cyprus. This one merely explains the joy for both the country she was born in and the king who made her, and how happy she was at the time. She even comments that she is unsure of whether at the time that she was human or statue, and that it didn't matter because the joy that she felt was real regardless. Alright, so it should go without saying that a lot of these are kind of spoilers for characters anyway, but this one's a massive spoiler for Morgan, so here we go. This is the tale of Morgan, who gave up everything she had and promised to pursue her own dream. She was given the opportunity to become a soul of the planet and be beloved by all, but this was not her desire. She wanted a land of her own, and as such was changed. She became the ruler of a land all on her own and rejected her destiny, but accomplished her dream instead. Kakigori is a summertime sweet in Japan. Calling it shaved ice is wrong because it's just not the same. American and European snow cones ain't shit to kakigori. What is most interesting here is the first recorded instance of kakigori comes from Say's Pillow Book, describing it as a sweet served to the aristocracy made of fluffy ice with syrup atop it. 1,000 years later, she still hasn't figured out how to eat it slowly to avoid brain freezes. The Bloodied Rheingold. Where the Rheingold in Siegfried's Bond CE sits at the bottom of a river, here it has been upheaved and now covered in blood. This is to show the amount of blood that Kriemhild herself drew out in eradicating those that killed her husband over the treasure. Pom-poms used by Ibuki during her summer. She believes that shaking them will make one's magical energy rise, which I guess is one way to call it. The original pom-poms were first made of paper back in the 1930s and have evolved since to be more rounded and flamboyant. Rikyu's is a nice explanation as to why she is summoned how she is. Rikyu is described as an angry spirit, like water, flowing out violently everywhere but free. Komahime is a sad spirit, like a flower drifting alone in a river. The two souls met and felt sorry for one another and decided to comfort each other. As such, they became intrinsically linked in a singular spirit, soothing each other's pains and fears. Together, though, they have accepted the one who summoned them and are pleased that we are who we are. The Dice Game of Shakuni. One of the most famous tales of the Mahabharata, this was a plot by Shakuni to strip the Pandavas of their power and humiliate them. Using a pair of rigged dice, Duryodhana slowly took everything from the Pandavas in a gambling match, eventually getting to the point where they were all enslaved to him. Before you go and say, well, why didn't the Pandavas just stop playing if it was clear that Duryodhana was cheating? It is the exact same reason why an aristocrat died of his bladder exploding rather than leave the presence of the king. Etiquette. This game came to a head when Duryodhana tried to have the wife of the Pandavas disrobed in front of the court, but divine intervention prevented this. This one is very tied into Castoria's Lost Belt 6 story, so much like the Morgan one, if you've not cleared Lost Belt 6, I'd recommend skipping this one. Near the end of Lost Belt 6, Castoria is subjected to reliving her life in the form of seasons. Each of these is represented by a different type of memory that she will reflect upon. Her beginnings in the summer, her challenges in the fall, her worst memories in winter, and then her most pleasant memories in spring. What we are given is truly terrible visions of her life up through the first three, and finally when we get to see the springtime of Castoria's life, it ends within seconds. Castoria and Fairy England had no spring memories. No joy, no love, no positive memories whatsoever. Everything that she ever did was to please others rather than herself, and as such, she never actually felt happy. What this has to do with this CE is that these are happy moments for her. This is Castoria finally experiencing spring memories, things that she can definitively clutch to her heart as happy times. The decision of making them photographs ties back into the same idea as George's CE, as something that can also be left behind. It is physical proof that at one point in her existence, she was able to be happy with someone she truly enjoys, and was surrounded by friends who loved her in return. And that is the Berserkers. Next up is the extra classes. Let me know what you thought down in the comments. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and for now guys, I will catch you all later. Keep your chin up. Peace.